So we're going to mix it up a little bit, and we're going to mix it up specifically because when we were talking prior to and planning for this panel, there was something that the panelists shared that I thought was really important. So as we think about referrals and which is the right referral, they shared something that I thought was really great to hear, and it really speaks to the collaboration that happens across organizations. So Jesse, do you want to share kind of how the organizations are working and what a case manager needs to know exactly about what happens when they need to refer?
The messaging of that is that don't hesitate to send to whoever you want to send it to. If should happen to be that HVL has a clinic first and you want to send them to us because you feel like this person has a need that needs to get addressed quickly, whether or not they qualify for our program or is a program that we can deal with, we will refer them to whoever needs the help. And similarly, if you're like, hey, I'm going to send them to Ryan first or to Bo People or to Bo People SOS, they're going to do the same thing, and we'll get the people taken care of. Because the last thing we actually want is that multiple touch points is actually bad. The more that people get displaced, the harder it is to get them the services they need.
So I think the comforting thing that I heard on the phone, and hopefully you heard it, is if you pick up the phone and it's not the right person, don't worry, they will help you get to the right organization. And so I thought that that was very important for everyone to hear, that you don't have to get it right on the first try because we're all learning in this process together. The other thing, if you haven't pulled out your packet yet with your legal services, there's something that is kind of akin to the if you see something, say something. You know, we all know that. But there's a great quote in here from Sandra Brown from Lone Star Legal Aid that says, if something seems unfair, it's probably a legal service issue. So I don't know, Michael, if you want to talk a little bit about that, about what does that really mean? When should someone refer someone for services? What does that look like, unfair?
Well, it can be anything. You know, here I heard at lunch, you know, somebody paying 100% interest on a loan, you know, and they're not paying anything down on the principal. Well, it just doesn't seem right. You may not know what it is. Get that over to us. It's a legal issue that we can resolve. I'm going to throw a pitch out here. In addition, you know, I'm going to do a training later on this afternoon as far as title clearing. I'm not going to give you guys all the tools. What I want to do is give you the resources to say, this is a title issue. I need to get this to one of the legal services so they can fix this and they can fix it quickly for this client, and then we can move forward. Some of the experiences that I had in the previous title clearing work that I've done is that somebody says, you need to do an affidavit of heirship. They go and try to do that, they record it, they didn't do it properly, and now we got to go to court to fix it. Or we have to do something that's more extensive where a title company will actually rely on it. So just really, anytime that you see something and it just doesn't sound right to you as far as what's going on with this client, get it to one of the legal services so we can take a look at it and apply the law to it.
Jesse, do you have anything to add around like timing and what people should consider?
The sooner the better. Legal issues, there's going to be some remedies that are going to be time sensitive, and that's just the nature of it. Sometimes we have to file the suit on time in order for the particular remedy to be available. And in some instances, even if there may not be a timeline, the ability to solve the problem make it exacerbated because we're waiting longer. And so what you may seem like it's not a legal issue may actually have a legal solution to it. In actuality, many people don't even realize, they try to navigate a problem on their own because they don't realize there actually is a legal solution to it. And so some examples that would be related to Harvey would be home repairs and landlord-tenant repairs. They're not getting the repairs done, so they kind of start navigating that. There actually is a legal solution to that, and what you don't want happening is that people are like, well, you know, I'm going to just stop paying my rent to get my landlord's attention, and all of a sudden we have an eviction, when really what we were looking at was maybe a demand letter or just kind of getting in there. So as soon as you start hearing these things, you want to go ahead and get them sent to us. Here's the thing. If it turns out that it's not a legal problem, we at the end of the day are problem solvers. I mean, that's really what we're here to do. And if it turns out that it's a practical problem, it needs a practical solution, we will make sure that they go back to where they need to go for that practical solution. But if there is a legal solution, then we'll identify that.
So to build on that, between practical solutions and legal solutions, one of the things that we learned through this process is that there's more than one type of way to solve something, and the term legal services is so broad. So Dustin, do you mind just elaborating about the different types of legal services, be it advice and counsel, et cetera?
Right. So in our office, we have mainly attorneys, but we also have non-attorney advocates who sometimes are much better than the attorneys, and who have their own caseloads. And so we have everything from short-term advice to what I say direct advocacy assistance, which could be attending a meeting at a school with a family. It could be assisting in writing a demand letter, to litigation. In our office, we occasionally take on a class action, but not in the average case, right? And so that full spectrum. We also are always looking for opportunities to make systemic change where we can. One of our first cases under this project was in an apartment that when we went to meet with one family, every family in the apartment wanted to meet with us. And so, we can, in those kind of things, say, well, can we take some action to try to address the landlord problems here systemically for this whole community.
And speaking of systemic change, we've had some wins from people sitting on this panel, especially as it relates to FEMA appeals. And so we want to talk a little bit about the FEMA appeals process. Nazanin, I want to go to you first and talk about some of the best practices and success cases, and then we'll fill in from the rest of the panel as well.
So most of us think when FEMA gives us a deadline, it's a hard deadline. That is not the case. If a deadline for an appeal has expired, you can most certainly appeal to FEMA, and you can appeal to them 5 or 6 times. It does not matter how many times you appeal, FEMA will look at it. So that's one thing you need to remember, is that if a client comes to you with an expired denial letter, you send them to one of us and we can still do a FEMA appeal, because FEMA will still look at it. They're trying to scare people off from doing that, but you don't know that they actually will look at it. So I didn't know that until I worked here. I mean, if I got a denial letter and it said 60 days and the 60 days have passed, I'd be like, oh, well, okay, then I can't do anything. And also for an insurance appeal, I had a case. I've only been on Boat People SOS for 3 weeks, but in my 3 weeks here, I did an insurance appeal. And the client had already gotten $5,200 for his roof repair. And all I did was I called the insurance and I got the right email, and I emailed and someone called me and I got him $700 more, even though they'd already cut him $5,200. So you have to ask. If you don't ask, the answer is always no.
That's great. Ryan, do you want to talk a little bit? You shared something about language and individuals who are trying to go into FEMA appeals, and just some things that you've learned in terms of best practices.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things. If, again, yes, FEMA can always relook at things, but you want to try to do it the right way the first time.
Right.
So anytime you're doing any type of FEMA appeal, they have to include things like their name, their date and place of birth, their address, and it either has to be sworn and notarized, or it has to contain very specific language. I hereby declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. If it doesn't contain that language, sometimes FEMA will just deny it automatically, and then you run into the risk of having to reapply or tell them that your circumstances have changed. But they have a legal reason to deny it automatically. So if you're doing an appeal, or as someone assisting with an appeal, they have to have written consent from that person that's included with it. Otherwise, they're not going to consider it. And these are things that when we're talking about being proactive, that you can put a little bit of the word out. It's kind of like when we're talking about, we heard the city of Houston and Harris County talk about CDBG. And that's one thing why we talked about maybe now we need to handle title clearing before that process opens up. Because the last thing you want is for that process to be opened up and your clients can't get into that process because they can't complete the packet of information that's available. So it's that sort of things with this FEMA appeal and title clearing that we're trying to get out in front of.
So timing matters, language matters. Do you have any other tips here on the panel of what can help people through the process? Nazanin, I don't know if you have any that you want to start us off with.
So we do a lot of outreach events with our health part of our BPOs, Big TSOS. When they have clinics, we go as well. And we hear from people, why are you coming to us now 9 months later? Why do you want to help us now? And they don't know that we're free, so we first have to tell them we're free, and then they don't want to, find the legal documents we need to do a FEMA appeal, for example. So it's been a hard part on our case manager's part to actually convince someone to sign up for legal services, because they're discouraged and they're reluctant to try us, and they have kind of a distrust of using help from other people. So it's been a little bit of a challenge.
Can I add to that? So I'm going to add a little bit to that. So one of the things that in our work that I think that sometimes people can easily forget is that There is a hesitation sometimes to reach out for legal assistance. Depending on the experiences of a particular person or community, there is a general maybe distrust of of what legal services can provide. I definitely have had individuals say to me, it's like, well, you're part of that system that has not really helped me before. And so there, you know, our intake model for HVL is through a legal advice clinic. We do everything one-on-one in person for the most part. And we do that because we feel like that creates a rapport and a sense of trust with our clients to make them comfortable with sharing information, which can be very personal, very private, sometimes embarrassing. They're concerned about the consequences of sharing that information with us. This is a big concern in the undocumented community about what they share with people who may be part of the system. This is where you can kind of play a role in kind of helping deal with that anxiety, which is that when you're working on a referral process to legal services, to say that we really are here to help, and that what they say to us is we're here to protect them and to help serve their need. We may not necessarily, you know, get them the result they want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're still not doing the best that we can to kind of serve them. So that would help in terms of navigating that connection with us, to say it's okay, they really are here to help.
And in talking about that, I think we've heard, and I think we've asked the question a few different ways today, but essentially what you're talking about in some ways is managing expectations. Mm-hmm. And so how have any of you really dealt with managing the expectation of the client, especially those who have been frustrated through the process? How are you helping them along?
Well, one of the ways, I think we were just talking about this at lunch, is, you know, just because something is wrong and we can't get them the outcome that they want, like I tell people all the time, it doesn't mean that it's morally right, but unfortunately it's legally right. And those two things don't always mesh up. And where they don't mesh up, yes, it is unfair. But unfortunately that's where the law is. But I still, you know, and I'll tell them I still don't think it's right, but legally there's nothing that we can do for you. And sometimes that helps lessen the blow a little bit, knowing that you still relate to them, you still understand their frustration, but unfortunately the law is what it is.
I'll say, you know, I hate to lose as much as our clients do. I'm that competitive. And so part of what I'm trying to do is identify winning claims that client may have, right? I'll say we're doing a lot of FEMA appeals right now. It's not my favorite thing because it's not what I expect to get the highest value of, to be most successful with, and to really help the most people with. There are other advocacy venues that I expect to accomplish more. So I think on the front end, one thing I'm going to try to do is really work with that person on anything that they may have that could be a winner, so that we can do the best we can to achieve some positive outcomes for them. And then I think that a lot of people, I find, there's always some people who come with one very clear thing they want you to work on. But a lot of the people we're meeting right now have so many struggles that if you can win on something for them, we're at least going in the right direction.
Also, I think it helps to just set realistic expectations from the outfront when we meet with the client. So yes, we're going to do a FEMA appeal for you. Yes, we're going to do an insurance appeal for you, but we can't guarantee an outcome. FEMA may approve you, FEMA may deny you, but we're going to do our best to help you. And we've had people say, well, we're not going to give you documents until you can guarantee us that FEMA is going to give us money. And we're like, there's no guarantees in life. We can't guarantee anything. So if you want us to help you, we're free and we're here, but we can't guarantee anything.
I kind of want to just hit on Jesse's previous comment, you know, about the referrals or different things like that. One of the things that I experienced with the previous title clearing was with caseworkers. We had a kind of dedicated team of caseworkers that were outside the organization, and they were meeting with the clients on a regular basis, but they weren't making the expectation that I'm going to be sending your matter, your case to an attorney for assistance. And so when I was calling them, or when my assistant was calling them, they weren't expecting that. And so it was like another wall that we had to climb. So if anybody is referring anybody to any of these, just let them know, I'm going to be referring you to a nonprofit legal aid organization for them to provide you some kind of assistance. Then to tack onto that, I can't guarantee that they're going to be able to resolve your issue, but they're going to assess the merits of it, and they're going to provide you whatever assistance that they can provide within the realm of the law or within the realm of negotiating. You know, it might not be a law thing, but maybe we can get them a little bit more funding. But make sure that they understand that we're going to be contacting them, that we are lawyers, we're nonprofit, and that it's probably not going to be calling them as soon as you send the email or the phone call over to us. But make sure that you're not promising the world that we're going to be looking at the merits of their case and providing advice or assistance based on that.
I'm going to follow up on on that, which is not about necessarily the expectations, but in terms of your expectations when you actually send referrals to any of the legal aid organizations. Once that referral is sent to us, we can't talk to you about it. We can't even verify that we've accepted their case as a client. It's based on the attorney-client relationship aspect of it. So just be aware of that. It's not that we're being, secretive. It's just that we really can't share that information with you. So just thought I'd put that out.
But to that point, but if they are working directly with that client would be able to let them know that they are working with you.
Yes, yeah.
And the client can sign a release
Yes.
if it's really important that we be in contact with the case manager or whoever it is. Working with people with disabilities, they very often need us to help talk to someone who's a support for them. So we're happy to do that, but we have to get a release from the client first.
In thinking about additional resources you're providing, we will have a title and deed clearing, and you heard about some collaboration that you were already sparking up at lunch. But what other services are you providing beyond just those that you originally discussed in your introductions?
Well, like at the University of Houston, one thing we're willing to do is come out there to the community, do community educations. If you have a certain segment of the population, is just having a recurring legal issue, we can develop a presentation to them in whatever area of town you're in, come visit with them all at once. Same with case managers or case workers. If there's a certain legal issue that you're looking out for as well, we can develop a presentation for you to help get you training in some area that may be a legal issue that you think you just see reoccurring and you just need a little bit of knowledge of that. We're also going to be doing the trainings for attorneys and law students as well at the University of Houston.
So here at Boat People SOS, we also help with replacement of immigration documents that were lost in the flood. And also we help with, I forgot what I was going to say. Wills, yes. Thank you. We also write wills for clients, so we're proactive. It's not just something happened with Harvey, but now people are scared. We need a will just in case another disaster happens. So we also do that.
I have not a full staff, but I have quite a few attorneys working in our department. We have reoccurring outreach locations. We partnered up with Baker Ripley, and so we have attorneys at several of their locations several times a week, every week. Are also willing. We have staff with presentations that are ready to go. If anybody has an area that they need legal services to come in there, just give us an idea of where the area is and what you guys want us to talk about. We're more than happy to come out to you. We've been through the disasters before. Lone Star Legal Aid was on the ground at the disaster locations. We're certainly familiar with it and we're ready to go.
We're really willing to take on a lot of disability rights taxes, but the tighter it relates to disability, the stronger we're going to be on it and the more options we're going to have for what we can offer. And so I think, if any of you know where a large group of people with disabilities are clustered, you provide housing to them, whatever, and you want us to come to you, we're happy to do that. We're happy to give Know Your Rights presentations like other people here have mentioned, do clinic type events, and we're happy to just consult on difficult cases. So if you have, maybe a handful of people that you're thinking of in your caseload who have disabilities and you're struggling to know if any of them have legal rights issues, send us an email and set up a time to just kind of go through case by case and problem solve with you. And we can help you, identify what may be some cases that we could really help out on.
And so similarly to everyone, we do the same kind of situations. We also are happy to attend any kind of resource fairs that you have. We have Know Your Rights documents and that are public facing that we can share with everyone. We will have embedded legal clinics scheduled where we will work with you to either schedule appointments or there'll be walk-in basis. If you feel like you have a large enough population that would warrant an on-site clinic, either on a regular basis or just a one-off or a two-off, contact Trey, and we will definitely get that set up for you. I did want to actually, slightly not on the resources side of it, but I just want to re-emphasize that for all of us, If you're not sure, it doesn't have to be a Harvey-related issue for you to send them to us. I want to kind of be, I always make sure I have to get out here for everyone. If you're serving an undocumented or an immigration population out there, there is a vast problem with notarios that exists in the city and within the community of people helping prepare forms and applications for them. I am certain of it that existed in FEMA. I'm certain it's existing for applications for benefits where people are doing this thing. There's going to be the fraud problem that exists, as well as the underlying actual problem that they didn't actually solve when they were completing these forms. And so so just kind of be aware that there are those people out there, and you may have clients that may have done an initial outreach to somebody that they may not have mentioned. So please, in your working with people, find out if they've already gone to other people who have tried to help them, because we may have that problem out there.
Just the last thing to mention is we serve, Boat People SOS serves the greater Houston community, so Houston and Harris County. We serve those populations, and there's also no wait list for our legal services. So if you need assistance right away, contact us. And we don't just deal with the immigrant population, we deal with everyone. And even English speakers. I know I really emphasize the non-English speaking, but that's because we have the resources and we can help people in their own language.